Welcome to the Selling in the Motor Trade podcast, in association with Simco Training. This is the weekly podcast where we share best practice, tips and ideas on how to sell more cars, improve your service department, and generally put more profit into your dealership or dealer group. I'm your host, Simon Bowkett. Now, some of you probably already know me as Skippy. I would start by saying thank you for taking the time to listen to this podcast. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Selling in the Motor Trade. I'm really excited today to be dealing with John Veichmanis. John Veichmanis is our CEO of Carwow. And I've got to say, I'm so excited to have him here to talk all about not just Carwow, but the motor trade in general, where he's come from. And I think this is just going to be really, really good. But the first thing I want to say is it John or JV? What do you prefer, sir?
Hey, Simon, nice to connect. Well, most people call me JV because my surname is impossible to pronounce, even my wife. So let's go with JV.
Thank you. I tried very hard then. I obviously pronounced it wrong.
You did very well, Simon. You did very well. Stupid name.
JV. Well, listen, a lot of our dealers, a lot of the audience might not know you directly yet. So let's start with some quick fire questions just to get to know you. What's the first car you ever owned, John?
Oh, goodness. It was in 1997, a Ford Fiesta 1.1L in red.
In red. The L in red. We love it. So what about a dream road trip for you? Or would that be a nightmare, a road trip?
Oh, no, I love road trips. So probably actually I took 6 weeks off before I joined Carwow, and I drove all the way around Europe with my wife and 3 kids. Wow. We had a Porsche Panamera. It was amazing. So we could fit all the kids in, but it was really good fun to drive. So definitely that was my best road trip to date.
Did you do all the Alpine passes and stuff like that?
Yeah, exactly. We even took it to Mallorca as well as part of the road trip, which was slightly odd, but
Okay.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So what do you reckon is the favorite feature on a car that maybe people underestimate?
Well, that's a good question. I think for me, I think probably all. I'm most value. I think adding more and more cameras to the car, basically just when you're parking, so you don't scratch the alloys, etc. Those are the things I think are perhaps a little bit undervalued. So when people ask me what options should you fit, I say, adding more of the cameras just to sort of make it parking easier, sort of avoid scratching the wheels, etc.
I was thinking about Manchester Airport last week. I wish I had that. The 360, exactly for that one.
Yeah, the 360, exactly. Yeah, it's a really cool feature.
That's right. So this might be controversial. EV or ICE, internal combustion engine for you? Which one, JV?
Oh goodness, that's a good question. Well, my heart goes EV, although I've just swapped out of an EV to a petrol hybrid for practicality's purposes. But I think long-term EV.
Yeah, it's I'm exactly the same at the moment. My wife, we've just went EV. I want to go EV, but the distance I'm doing, I'm still need to be. I'm one cycle away, I think. But it's
yeah.
Okay, that's about your car background. What about you? What do you have a go-to motivational song before a big meeting or a presentation or anything like that?
Oh, good. That's a good question. Well, I was brought up in Manchester. I love dance music, so I'd probably say "Outer Space" by The Prodigy. It's good high tempo, lots of energy.
Oh, okay. Good choice. Good choice, sir. Okay. You an early bird or a night owl?
I'm a total night owl. Yeah. So I tend to work quite late into the evening. It's definitely when I have my best ideas and probably get the most done, actually. Yeah, I'm a total night owl. My wife's the opposite.
Complete opposite, yeah? You can get best things done at night and work on it. Okay. Now, this question, I've done a bit of research before this episode, so I might know the answer to this one, but are you Apple or Android? What would you prefer?
I'm an absolute Apple fan. I spent a few years working at Apple, so...
I thought you'd have to be on that one there, based on that one. I thought I was still asking. Okay, so what's your best, the app you're using your phone the most that's not work-related?
Oh, good question. Duolingo. I'm learning Spanish, so we have Carwow. We have a Carwow business in not just the UK, but also Germany and Spain, and I'm trying to learn Spanish so I can speak to the team in Madrid.
Very good.
So it's an amazing app. I think it's a great app, actually. Quite inspirational in terms of how they built that thing. It's really, really clever.
Cool. And last one then, I think I might know this as well based on what you've just done. City break or beach holiday? What's your next holiday going to be?
I'm quite lucky that I get to travel with work to some quite cool cities. So I'd go beach holiday.
Beach. Cool. Listen, nice to get to know you. So, listen, can you tell us a little bit about your journey to becoming CEO of Carwow? So, I understand, if I got this right, you had time with Dell, Apple, Skype, if I've got that right. Can you share a bit about your background and where you come from and how you found yourself to Carwow?
Yeah, of course I can. Yeah, it's quite a long journey. It's my anniversary of working. So next year I've been working for 30 years. So quite an amazing milestone. Interestingly, I started my career. I left university in '95, and the uni I went to phoned me up. I studied marketing and asked me if I'd ever been on the internet. Obviously, this was '95, when not that many people had. So it's quite remarkable now. And asked if I'd been on the internet because they wanted somebody to come and build their first ever website. And I think I must have been the only marketing graduate that was in that day, and I managed to get the job. And so they taught me to code, taught me to build sites. So I started out as
wow, you can code as well.
Entry engineer. Yeah, I started out as an engineer, and which I loved. But I've always been interested in the business side. I studied marketing, but it's quite profound, I think, in terms of, I suppose I was building websites before the web was that popular. So it's always given me this sort of real enthusiasm to innovate and try and sort of think about the next steps ahead, particularly from a technology perspective. And that's been really important in the jobs that I've taken, but also the companies that I've worked for. So really lucky to work for lots of US technology companies. So to your point, I worked at Dell, where I was responsible for marketing in Europe. I worked at Apple, so I was working on the launch of the Apple store in Europe, the online store. I got to work on the launch of the first ever iPhone back in 2007,
wow.
Which was pretty amazing. And then I moved from Apple to work for Silver Lake, a private equity firm that bought Skype from eBay, and we then sold it on to Microsoft a couple of years later. And I was responsible for monetization. So how do you take the millions of people that were downloading the Skype app every day for free? How do you really move that the Skype.com platform from a download center to an e-com business where you can generate some revenue from the premium services that we're offering to our customers? So a really interesting trend. And then I moved to Expedia. That was my first ever marketplace back in 2011. I was running marketing there, predominantly running demand generation, so spending most of Expedia's money on Google Ads. And I got into my sort of early 40s, perhaps had a slight midlife crisis, and was sort of reflecting whilst I loved everything that I'd done in my careers. I really wanted to work in a startup or a scale-up business, but with a massive mortgage and 3 kids, starting my own business felt a little bit risky. So I went to a business called Farfetch, which was so there's a luxury clothing business. It was about 400 people, and we scaled that up to IPO back in 2019. So I finished there and then joined Carwow, which is obviously another marketplace. This is my 3rd marketplace in the last decade.
Well, listen, JV, over that time, you've worked with some amazing leaders. Can I ask you, before you got to Carwow, are there any mentors or leaders that really stood out that you thought, so right now you say, what would someone do? How would they have done it? Because I'm just thinking some of the people you must have worked with at those times must be, it's sensational.
Yeah, no, I feel so lucky. I've had some amazing bosses and amazing experience. I think definitely something that stays with me through both Farfetch and Carwow is thinking about sequencing. So Dara Khosrowshahi, he was the CEO of Expedia when I was there. He's now the CEO at Uber. I think it was phenomenal at making sure that the sequencing of the priorities across teams were seamlessly joined together. So you didn't have one team running at a slightly faster pace, or the marketing team running at a faster pace and product, which ultimately leads to a disconnect, or the probability of success diminishing significantly. He was phenomenal at making sure that you can invest in each of the teams at an appropriate rate, but keep them in sequence and keep them moving at pace. And that led to phenomenal execution when we were at Expedia in terms of growth rates, but also just driving efficiency into the business. And that's something that's really stayed with me, because it's easy to say, but it's actually really, really difficult to do.
It's something I would never have thought about. But again, marketing's going ahead, full steam ahead. Product's not ready. Of course, it's kind of obvious when you say it, but
I think in a growth environment where you're really moving at pace, it's hard to get right. So that's I've worked with some amazing leaders. I feel really lucky.
Am I right in thinking you were at Skype when it was acquired by Microsoft? Have I got that right?
I actually left. So once the deal closed, I left and then went to Expedia. As I said, I love Apple so much. I thought I cannot work for Microsoft. This would be a crime to technology. So I went to Expedia after the deal closed.
So what was about Carwow? Why are you here? Okay, what attracted you to the Carwow business?
Yeah, I think three things. I think first and foremost, in my personal life, I probably spent too much of my family's money on cars. It's a category that I have huge energy and passion for, and I think that there is a need for a marketplace. Ultimately, my job at Car as the CEO is more and more consumers move online to start that car changing journey, to start the research phase, the shortlisting. It's my job to help them make good decisions, but ultimately drive them back into dealerships. Our dealer partners are the experts in a particular product, in a particular brand, in particular models, and the partnership between ourselves in terms of us helping consumers navigate some of those early choices, building that shortlist, and then getting them back into the dealerships. I think there's a huge opportunity given the growth in content that's being consumed online by consumers looking to buy their next car, or in our case, they also sell their old one.
Well, I suppose this brings me on to your acquisition trail recently. I think it's 2021. Wizzle come on the auction sites, and now Carwow is big in sourcing cars for dealers and the auction side of it, going up against, I suppose, We Buy a Car and Motorways. I think it's early this year. AutoV with Auto Express, Evo, Car Buyer. Recently, within the last couple of weeks, GridServe Leasing. Can we expect more acquisitions?
Busy, Simon. We've been busy.
Can we expect more acquisitions, or are you going to consolidate for a while? Or I suppose, what's the scale of the vision? What are you looking to build?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think as we've mentioned, the clear trend is that more and more consumers are going online to really think about that car changing process. There are so many more choices to make. And I think what we do really well is we help people navigate those choices in a fun, entertaining, and in an engaging way. But ultimately, consumers trust us. If somebody watches one of Matt's car reviews, they really trust what we say and our perspectives. And we feel that when you think about this particular category, these are big decisions to make for consumers. They want to make sure they get the right car. And we talk about we have repositioned Carwow from being a new price car comparison site to becoming a destination for car changing. We want to help you with those difficult choices and do that in a fun and entertaining way. And I think over the course of the last decade, we have proven we are really good at that. Millions of people use Carwow, whether they're watching our videos, whether they're reading the content on the site, whether they're configuring cars, whether they're valuing their old car. I think we have proved our worth there. And our focus is how do we help how do we attract millions of more people into our ecosystem? But the reason we ultimately want to do that is then connect the online world back to the offline world. We don't believe that 80% of car buyers are going to buy their car online. We think this is an omni-channel play where online and offline need to play really well together. So my vision is ultimately, how do I help consumers through content, but then build brilliant technology to connect those consumers to our dealer and OEM partners, and that allows them to either those partners to sell cars, or is now the case in the UK, also source cars for that platform. And the reason I think we're really important is that it's expensive, it's difficult to build the level of engagement we have with millions of people, that is very, very expensive and difficult to do. And we want to consolidate and keep doing that really well, but with a view to helping our partners. Ultimately, that's what gets us up every day.
Yeah, I suppose Carwow really sits right in the middle between the OEMs, the dealer, and the consumer. It has to start with the consumer, I'm sure. Okay, and that's where it needs to be very, customer centric there. But I suppose you need both other parts as well there. And in the past, I suppose you've been accused of saying more customer centric than dealer. Has that changed? I don't know if dealer centric is a word. Maybe we've just made that up. Is it changed, or is it that same? Can you tell us about?
Of course, yeah, it's a really good question. It's a really good question, and I think your point's correct. That I think if you ask dealers back in 2019, 2020, many of them would feel that Carwow was exclusively on the side, if that's relevant, focused on the end user, on the consumer. But from my perspective, that's a challenging position to hold, because we are not a retailer. Retailers have to be 100% consumer focused. We are a marketplace. And we have to balance the needs of our end users, but also our dealer partners and our OEM partners. And we've done a lot of work there to make sure that we are balancing our investments. And I think a good example is if you looked at Carwow back in 2019, we'd have spent probably 95% of our product budget on building consumer-facing functions and 5% on features for dealers. If you look now, it's 50-50. We want to, if we want to help dealers buy more cars on our platform or sell more cars on our platform, we need to provide them with good data to help them do that. So when we think about our Sell My Car business, we spent literally millions on making sure that the listing quality, that if a buyer is participating in one of our auctions, they can see that the pictures are really good quality. We've tried to identify the damage. We've done a load of work to interrogate the customer to make sure we've got a fair representation of the car. And that ultimately is investment in dealer product, so we can serve our partners really well. And I think that's the biggest change. And I think if you look at the culture of the business, when we talk about consumers, it's interchangeable now. Consumers are end users, but also our dealer partners and our OEM partners. And that's something I feel really passionate about. Our dealers pay the bills at the end of the day.
I love the idea of your sourcing stock, because, listen, from the dealer world, we've all had BCA in the day, Mr. Scrubbing Cars, what grade of car it was, and it turns up there. And I think it's music to a lot of dealers' ears, saying that you need to get that bit right there. And it really is the focus there. Sorry.
So I was going to say, we're so excited about it. I think ultimately we've there is now a third way, I suppose, to source cars. There is obviously parts exchange, that's buying from a physical auction, and now there is the opportunity to buy directly from consumers from an online auction. And again, the focus for us, obviously, building a great auction technology, particularly in terms of making sure we've got all of the right information for dealers to bid on those cars. That's a massive investment for us. But the biggest investment is in marketing to encourage customers to list cars. That's what we're really good at. And that's where I think we've seen phenomenal traction with dealers, because we've got often more than 1,000 cars in our auction a day. And that's leveraging the residual trust that people have in Carwow. If they're looking to sell their car, then they're often heading to us rather than we buying a car, or some of the other sort of car buying services that are attached to physical auctions.
I just love to have that conversation, because it's kind of the legacy of Carwow. Was it 2013, 2012? Have I got that right? Something like that. And I love James Hines' story where it was just car buzz. It was like Rotten Tomatoes for cars. Okay. He was doing the reviews. He put his phone number there. I love the story where he's getting phone calls from customers saying, can you recommend a dealer to buy one of these from? He starts speaking to. I love that story. But again, at the time, there's so many times the initial investors are saying things like, hey, listen, we've all tried to buy a car, but it wasn't the most consumer-friendly process out there. Why hasn't anyone fixed this? Okay. And there was that race to the bottom. I suppose that's the legacy that you were known of 2012, 13. And I suppose that has to change and is changing. In fact, I've got some of our clients still, this sounds silly, but wouldn't realize that it's not still traditional Carwow. It's not the auction side of it. It's not where your revenue streams come from. In fact, JV, you've heard this, but I had one particular client I spoke to said, why do you want to work with those guys? Okay, let me tell you about Mrs. Casey. She bought 5 cars from us in the past there. Okay, she'd done the deal done. She went home. She went on Carwow there. Then they bribed her with 25 quid Marks and Spencer vouchers to get 300. You've heard those stories.
There's no Marks and Spencer vouchers anymore, Simon, I promise.
But the reason why I say that is the legacy. It's there's still some people that don't realize everything else that I suppose you're doing. So can I ask you, the paid for lead proposition, that must have changed that, because you haven't, was it 4 years ago? You changed from it must have been 4 years ago now. There's still that perception out there though, isn't there, sometimes with some dealers?
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, the cost per sale model, I don't think was. I think it was fine for when the business started. Obviously, it was operating at a much smaller scale, and perhaps in hindsight, that model should have changed at a much faster pace. It just did not scale, and it's very difficult to determine. Well, you know, how do you attribute a sale to Carwow versus a salesperson in the dealership? So we've moved on from that now, and since 2020, actually, we've had a cost per inquiry model. So it's quite simple. You can participate on Carwow. So if you're a Hyundai dealer, you can cost up all of your makes and models. If a customer configures the Ioniq 5 and you want to serve a price to that particular customer, you can do, and you only pay when they inquire. So it's I believe it's very good value for money, but also it allows our customers to manage their costs, because they only pay for the inquiries that they actually want, and it's very clear in terms of the bill you're going to get based on the number of clients that you've had contact with on the platform.
I suppose it's a lot of dealers not realizing all parts of the business. So I suppose your revenue, are you still making most of your revenue from the traditional Carwow, or is it shifted to the sourcing side of the business and the content? Where does the revenue come from then?
Yeah, it's a good question. And actually, in the UK business now, the new car, the classic Carwow model of generating leads on new car is not the largest revenue line in our P&L now. Ultimately, the Sell My Car business, the sourcing business, is the biggest proportion of our P&L, plus our media business, actually. So we have a significant media business now that we own Carwow. We obviously own all of the Autovia titles as well, to Auto Express, Evo in our portfolio. And so we generate quite significant revenues from media. And what we're trying to do is connect the media business to the inquiry business. So if you're getting lots of inquiries on one particular make and model, that's great. But if you want more on a particular model, can you use our media products to actually generate more configurations and inquiries in a particular make and model? So we work with OEM partners and some of the bigger dealer groups there to actually generate more interest in particular cars. And that also now is a significant proportion of our revenue. So yeah, I think that the makeup of our revenue is unrecognizable to that of 3 years ago.
So I want to now talk about agency. The A word. It's agency it's here. There's lots of people still saying I'll never work, I'll go back to it. I mean, it's a tide we can't change. We've got Mercedes, Volvo, Volkswagen next year. I mean, everyone's looking at agency. There's a few minor people who said, nope, we're not going to go down that route at this stage. How does agency affect your core business?
Yeah. There were many questions, I think, around Carwow in terms of should Carwow exist in an agency world? Because obviously there's no price differentiation by dealer. I think ultimately the business is quite misunderstood ultimately, in that when we look at what consumers are actually doing on the platform, they're comparing multiple cars, not just one. And so typically our customers will configure 7 cars, and they will inquire on 5 different cars. So the agency model doesn't impact that, because you've got a consumer comparing a Mercedes to a BMW. And ultimately, they're adding options. They're building their perfect BMW, their perfect Mercedes, and then trying to work out which is the best one to buy based on the price that they receive from dealers. So ultimately, the agency model hasn't really had a massive impact on how consumers actually use it. I think the other aspect for us, we talked about the media business earlier. Many of the agency brands that we work with are also spending a significant amount on our media business to generate more interest in their particular makes and models. So we transfer some of the revenue between different products on the platform.
I suppose a stat that I had when I was with your business last week, 76% of people still buy local, if I got this right. 56% of people buy from the best rated dealer. And it's only 30% that, maybe it was below 30, but it was around 30% bought from the cheapest dealer. And I didn't expect that. Being a dealer myself, I thought, hold on, it'll be 76% of people buy from the cheapest. So actually, have I got those figures right, JV?
Yeah. No, that's, again, I think it's often misunderstood, and I think it depends on the spread ultimately on the price of a particular car. Most customers, I think, if they live in London and a dealer in Scotland has offered them a £500 discount compared to their local dealer, by and large, the customer will go to their local partner, because they, ultimately, again, this is an expensive purchase. They trust dealers. If something goes wrong with it, they can take it back. They want somewhere to go get the car serviced. They want to build a relationship. I think dealers are phenomenal at building longer term relationships with customers. And despite, I think, a lot of the sort of stereotypes, customers value that. They really do. And I think we see that in the behaviours on our platform. So to me, ultimately, the star ratings, that's the response that consumers get from our partners plays a massive role in terms, again, stuff that dealers are really good at. It's not new news. How quickly they respond, how quickly they answer the questions, and making sure they get to the point, getting them into the showroom to see the car, sit in it, test drive it. That ultimately, if you're helping people solve that, those next steps in the buyer journey, we see really good reviews from customers, and that definitely drives the probability of you inquiring with one dealer over the other.
Yeah, it's quite funny speaking to a few of our clients about Carwow, and it's we've had a lot of them say, actually, we do quite all right out of Carwow, but don't tell anyone. And they have dedicated people to deal with the Carwow inquiry, because it is different to someone walking in. Okay, it is completely different, and they have dedicated people. They get on, and how they deal with it. Yes, we all know speed of response is important, but what is that response as well? That's the next bit.
I think that's absolutely right. And again, when we think about how we can help dealers, this is why I think when we think about our longer term vision, we have so much data on the platform. We can see those interactions. We know which interactions drive a conversion. And I'm really keen that we can use technology to expose more of that to our partners, and they can feed it into their training programs and how they think about generating even more return from the leads. There's still a lot more for us to do that, because there is a real treasure trove actually of data on the platform. And certainly with, and obviously AI at times I think is overhyped, but just the ability to use AI to read sentiment in responses and connect that back up to sales, I think it's a big opportunity for us to do more to help partners there. So yeah, lots. I think there's lots for us still to do. But I would say that one call out actually for any dealers that feel that they perhaps don't know Carwow so well. They still think we operate on that sales cost per sales model. I'm always happy to get in I love driving. So I'm happy to get my car. I think meet people personally. So reach out. I'm very happy to. I love spending time with dealers and try to bust some of the sort of myths of cars.
Well, to be fair, I think vast majority know that it's a pay-per-lead model now for 4 or 5 years or something like that. But I think some might not realise that. Well, used cars. Okay.
Yeah.
Using Carwow for the used car side of it. Here's a
Yeah.
cheeky question for you. Are you able to compete with Auto Trader? Okay, why is someone going to come to Carwow, Auto Trader, or new entrants like Cinch?
Yeah.
What's the vision for the used car side of Carwow?
Yeah. It's a really good question. So if you think about, I mentioned earlier that we are positioning ourselves as a destination for car changing. So if you've watched one of our videos and you're interested in a particular make and model, you've used our video as the basis on which to make a decision to shortlist something. We want to be able to help you then go from watching the video, think, I'm quite excited about that car, it looks pretty cool. I never even thought about putting that on my shortlist, to being able to go and get into a showroom, see the car in person, talk to an expert about that particular car. Now, it makes no sense though if the people watching those videos, they don't all want to buy a brand new one. That is just not a credible proposition. So the reason we're adding used is not to try and beat Auto Trader. It's ultimately to serve the audience we already have more effectively. Provide them with the breadth of choice. If you're watching a video about a Ford Fiesta, it's a shame that there are no new ones anymore. But if you're watching that Ford Fiesta video that we made a couple of years ago and are really interested in it, well, I want to connect you to a dealer that can sell that car. And it may be a franchise dealer, or actually maybe an independent dealer that's got a good range of cars that suit your needs. So our focus is better serving the audience that we have, and using that to provide a very cost-efficient mechanism for dealers. Think about it. We are 70% of our media mix is from people that come to Carwow directly. They trust us as the start point for their car journey, and so I want to be able to funnel more and more of those people into our dealers. And I think competition's good. So if I can take a bit of share from Auto Trader because I've got good quality leads, that's fine. But our focus is serving our users and providing a really cost-efficient source of used car leads for our dealer partners.
I suppose you're right talking about EV there. So we know next year, what's it, 28% with the ZEV mandate, it has to be EV. On new car side of it, OEMs, we're going down that route. I suppose it's the used EV side of it.
It's a really good opportunity. I think it's and certainly that's where we're seeing really good levels of engagement. Obviously, we've seen a lot of variability on the residual value of EVs, but I think many consumers are sort of waking up to the point where actually a 3-4-year-old EV is actually potentially represents really good value for money, particularly if you want to get into that powertrain, but you've not been able to because the cost of a new one is often prohibitively high, particularly when you compare it to a similar ICE model. And by and large, it's interesting on our platform. When we look at the new car business, there is a lot of engagement into a lot of more than 40% of the cars configure EVs, but the sales profile is very different. And I think that's in part because we do see this on the platform. Consumers are configuring an ICE vehicle and a petrol vehicle, so an ICE vehicle and an EV vehicle, and comparing the prices, and that leads to quite a different conversion profile in terms of what they actually buy. Quite exciting. If you look at, I think the Vauxhall from Carwow that's launched, I think that's one of the first cars we've seen where the ICE car and the EV car are the same price, and we're seeing quite different behaviours there actually. So who knows what we'll see in the new space, but big opportunity on used EVs as well.
Yeah, I think it has to be, because new EVs, that 28% is definitely driving that market. The OEMs have got their head around, but that used space, it is used vehicles. We have to work out how to sell used EVs, and I think that is huge opportunity actually. Huge opportunity.
Yeah, no, I think that's right, and that again, that's why we think we're doing that. We're content led. We're going to help people make some of those decisions through content, whether that's the content we write on Auto Express, whether that's the videos we produce on Carwow. We want to be able to raise these opportunities up in front of consumers. So many people might not have thought about it, but we can tell them actually this is a really good time there to think about a used EV if that car suits your needs.
Any other innovations we can expect to see from Carwow in the next couple of years? Anything you can share with us? I'm sure the smile on your face for people who listen to this, he's got a big smile on his face now. There's clearly lots coming. Anything you can share with us, JV?
Yeah, well, so I suppose This year we raised $52 million in additional funding. The business is doing really, really well. We're pretty much operating at break even now, and the top line growth is really healthy. And that's allowed us to invest, to seek further investment. So investment venture partners out of the US invested $52 million. And the bulk of that spend is going into product development so that we can build new capabilities for our end users. But as I mentioned, we are really doubling down on the dealer and OEM facing products and tools. And it's difficult to tell you all the things we're going to do in the next 2 years, but I can certainly share some of the themes. From a sell my car basis, when we think about the auction business, we want to continue to really invest in listing quality. So how can we use AI to spot damage on cars, even down to stone chips on the bonnet? So when the dealer's making a bid on a car, they have a really good assessment of the quality of that vehicle. We believe there's so much more we can do there that drives confidence and encourages more dealers to buy online versus through a physical auction. The second area is, most of our dealer partners tell us that they prefer buying online than going to a physical auction for two reasons. Our fees are much lower. Our fees are kind of 2% of the car's value rather than the sort of 5 to 8 that you would expect in a physical auction. But obviously, it just saves time as well. People can sit in the back of the office or at home and assess just a broader range of cars that are available. But the reason they struggle to buy more cars is the last mile. How do you go and collect the car? How do we sort of help them manage the payment between the dealership and the end customer? So we're investing a huge amount there to make buying in an online auction as simple and as straightforward and as convenient as buying from a physical auction. So you'll see a lot of investment going there. And again, I think when we talk about are we consumer focused or dealer focused, a lot of our investment is going into creating great tools for partners. And I've already alluded to, on the new car side and on the used car side, we really want to start to build better insights for our partners. Interestingly, when you think about our business now, we see every aspect of what a consumer's doing. We know which videos they're watching, which reviews they've read. We most likely know what car they're currently driving because they've placed it into valued it on our platform. We know which car they've configured. How do we connect those dots together to score the user, help them understand how close somebody is to actually buying, and how can we aid that process so we can get them into the showroom and sell them more cars?
I tell you what, as a dealer, I'm keen to see the AI on making sure a car is as described from a customer. Listen, we have all bought cars not as described, and gearboxes gone and engines and covered with the bill. So it's be interesting to see where it goes there.
I think the technology in that space is phenomenal, and the challenge obviously is mechanical damage. So the AI is now going to, and but there is some AI that can listen to the engine noise, the sound,
really?
But I think that's but there's nothing compared to driving a car ultimately. And our perspective is, well, how can we insure for that potentially on the rare occasion that there's a problem? But certainly cosmetic damage, we feel we should be able to get to a point quite quickly actually where we can provide an assessment that's as good as standing in front of a car. I think many of my buyer partners would disagree. I think there's a huge skill to appraising a car. So we'll probably never get quite to the same degree. Difficult to check that if something's had a little bit of a respray here and there, but I think we can do a much better job to help our dealer partners. That they are buying a car is a real skill, and we want to provide our partners with more and more data and help that those buyers appraise a car and get some really good high margin purchases for their ball.
I'm just laughing at myself here because some of the dealers listening to this will still have John, their salesperson that they've dealt with for 30 years, that just says, does the other side of the car look the same, Mr. Customer, through the window? And they value it just on that. So anything you're talking about will be a lot better than that. And listen, what message would you like to leave a dealer, an investor, a dealer group, maybe an OEM listening to this? Any message you'd like to leave them with?
I think from my perspective, and I've talked about this a lot, that certainly as the CEO of Carwow, and I'm an ex-marketeer by trade, and I spent most of my life working in building technology products and running marketing. The thing that I want to do is build a platform that really capitalizes on this shift to online. And I have a very different view of the world to perhaps Kazoo. I think the Kazoo story was more and more people are going online. Therefore, we're gonna spend a lot of money on marketing, so people come to our website. I'm maybe slightly paraphrasing and oversimplifying it, and we're going to sell them cars online. I don't believe in that. I think ultimately people are going online first and foremost because they want more information.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about buying a car, even if you don't really interested in cars, the discovery phase is amazing. This is something that you're going to make. It's important to your family life. You're going to create memories in that car, whether it's being on holiday, on road trips, whatever it is. And we want to help people with the discovery process. That's why people are going online, to find out more information. And we are phenomenally good at that. We're not retailers. We're a marketplace. And ultimately, it's my job to use technology to connect that content to our retail partners. And that will help them source cars or sell cars, whether they be new or used. And that, I think, is the model that is appropriate to leveraging, which is somewhat of a structural consumer change, but it leverages the infrastructure, the know-how, and the brilliant retail partners that exist in this country. And so my connection is, my job is to connect up the content to our retail partners. And the thing I would leave, I would say first and foremost, although I'm slightly biased perhaps, is that I think we represent good value. And that's because we're investing in content, millions and millions of pounds every year. We invest in performance marketing to capture people that are interested in changing cars. And we spend our own money doing that. It's our risk. And we convert that into a variable cost for partners. If you come onto our platform and we don't send you any inquiries, you pay us zero. If you don't buy any cars on our platform, we charge you zero. And as an ex-marketeer, I genuinely think what we're trying to do is genuinely really positive, because we're converting a fixed cost into a variable cost. And so what CEO or what CFO, what's the not to like about that? Again, I'm slightly biased, but that, I think, is the thing we can do, because we operate at such scale at the top of the funnel. I think in August we hit 1 billion video views on our platform. It's
wow.
the world's most, not just the UK, it's the most popular car review YouTube channel in the world.
Never realized that. In the world. Yeah. Wow.
And we want to put that content to work for our partners. And it's difficult for anybody. Ultimately, the reason the channel works is because we're independent of brand, of make, of model, of dealership. And that's why people trust us. And we want to put that to work for our partners, and we want to do that in a way that you only pay us when we actually deliver results. And I think that's very different, perhaps, to go back to the opening comments to the model we had back in the earlier years of Carwow, which was based on.
I can say I was suitably impressed with the change from what I knew of Carwow 10 years ago. So it was really refreshing.
I'm really pleased to hear that. Yeah, and if there are partners out there that would just want to chat to, as I said, I've learned so much about. I love spending time in car dealerships and talking to partners. So genuinely would love. Please reach out, and I'll get on the road and come and say hi.
So what's the easiest way for people to find you, JV? Is it through LinkedIn? What's the easiest way?
Yeah, through LinkedIn, or my email address is JV, so my initials, JV@carwow.com. Drop me an email, and love to reach out and meet in person.
And it's nice to know that you're an actual real car nut as well at heart. So
yeah. The one problem when we go into dealerships, I'd end up coming back with different cars. But anyway, I used to work in luxury fashion, and as you can see, Simon, I'm not particularly fashionable. So I think I'm far more credible working in the car space, because my interest in the category is amazing. So yeah.
Well, listen, having said that, I've just got a last question. What's the ultimate car for you then? I've got Porsche. I've heard Porsche a few times. So I've got your GT3 Touring or something like that. What's the ultimate, JV?
Wow. So Matt Watson, our presenter, has a GT3 RS. And I keep asking if he'll let me have a go, but he
No.
won't. He's seen me drive though, Simon, so probably sensible. But that's definitely on my list. I would love a McLaren 720S. I think I think they're quite good price there for a used one. So yeah, I've never had a McLaren, so I'd definitely like to. I'm going to talk to Matt, and he's like, no, just get the 911 instead. But quite like to try a McLaren.
Very good.
Listen,
I should let you get on then. It's nice to. We'll be talking about cars all day. Thank you again for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Simon. Great to catch up. Thanks so much. Really good questions. Thank you.
That just leaves me to say that all details of this episode and other episodes on the selling in the motor trade can be found on our website, simcotraining.co.uk. Go there to get a copy of our book, Words That Sell Cars. Go there to sign up to a free trial of our Sales Fitness online sales training program. Easiest way to get hold of me is Simon Bowkett through LinkedIn. Thank you.